Welcome to Mysteries Niger. I'm your host, Esther. When the music band changes the rhythm in the middle of a dance, somebody powerful is about to enter the room. In 1980s Nigeria, journalism was mostly predictable. Newspapers reported what the government allowed. Editors understood the invisible lines you were never ever to cross. Then came a man who not only crossed those lines, but he questioned why those lines existed in the first place. His name? Dele Giwa. He was described to be stylish, fearless, brilliant, and even controversial. He was a journalist who turned investigative reporting into a weapon powerful enough to shake military governments. But in 1986, a package arrived at his Lagos home, and minutes later, Nigeria would witness one of the most horrifying political assassinations, or alleged political assassinations, in its history. A murder so shocking that decades later, the question still remains: who killed Dele Giwa? Up until today, we still do not know. Today's case is not going to be much of a deep dive due to the fact that it's an old case. Old cases that happened in Nigeria are really hard to find enough information about them. The record keeping at the time wasn't as good as it is in the world today, and most of the information we have on this case are mostly by people from his time who happen to still be alive today or have some information about it, who have sat through interviews or spoken about the case and through constant reporting of the case. And as to be expected of cases that have been retold and retold over and over again, details tend to change. I will only stick to what I could find that have been verified. So, who was Dele Giwa? Dele Giwa was born Sumunu Oladele Giwa on March 16, 1947 in Ile-Ife during the colonial Nigerian era before Nigerian independence in 1960. And we've also covered a case that happened around this time, the Anan killings, one of our previous episodes. So if you're curious about the events that happened during that time, you could also listen to that episode. So Dele Giwa was born in 1947. Although he was born in the Yoruba land, his family roots traced back to present-day Edo State. His father worked around the palace in Ile-Ife, and his mother as well. They worked there as servants, and he was born and raised around the palace. He wasn't royalty, he wasn't a prince or anything, but his parents worked for the royal family. And later on, his father moved on to becoming a laundryman at Oduduwa College, and life wasn't luxurious back in the day. That's still before our independence, when people were still living in small communities and hoping they could keep whatever freedom they still had and try to live in accordance to what the colonial masters were dictating. So life wasn't easy. They all had to pay tribute to the royal kingdom, who would in turn try to use that to make peace with the colonial masters. It wasn't a paradise on earth. Despite that, even as a child, people around Dele noticed something about him that was quite different for a child of his background, his family status. He was confident, he spoke boldly, and he had a very keen and sharp curiosity over everything. He was considered to be highly intelligent compared to the other young men around him in his village. He eventually was old enough to attend school. During the colonial era or even after, children had to be able to wrap their arm around their head, and their palm would have to cover their ear on the other side of their head. And if their arms were long enough to do that, then they were old enough to get into school. But if they wrapped their arm and their arm couldn't cover their ear on the other side or even touch it, then they still had to wait and do more growing before they could be enrolled in school. He was enrolled into the local authority modern school, and when he graduated from that, he was also enrolled into the Oduduwa College. During this time that he was enrolled in college, he joined the school literary club, and he would write articles. And when he was done with school, around that time, Nigeria was changing rapidly. Independence came around, politics was chaotic, military coup just begun, and the country was slowly becoming a very dangerous place for people to ask too many questions or even any question at all. When he's done with college, he gets employed at the Nigerian radio center, and he worked there for some time, saved up some money, and eventually he decided to travel out of Nigeria to study abroad. Back then, if you could get education, higher education outside of the country, you would not just come back with more education or a degree, but you'd also come back with new experience, exposure to other ways of life and thinking, and new skills that would help with the growth of the country. And such people would be on the fast track to becoming important people in the country, especially during the time that the country is fastly developing and trying to find its footing and grow as its own republic. He gains admission to study English at Brooklyn College and later continued his graduate study at Fordham University to gain his master's degree. And when he was done with that, he got a job employment to work at the New York Times as a news assistant. This exposure transformed his understanding of journalism. Around the time that he was working for the American news company, news reporting in Nigeria was quite different. Journalists were afraid to speak their minds or speak the truth as they knew it. But in America, investigative journalism was so much different. Journalists could challenge power, they could expose corruption, they could force governments to answer uncomfortable questions, and Dele returned to Nigeria after several years of working for different news stations in America to Nigeria to contribute to the country. But not only did he return with himself and some qualifications, some degrees, but he also returned with skills and experience and a newfound mission. He also brought with him the American style of journalism. When he arrived to Nigeria, he worked for companies like the Daily Times, and later on he became the editor at Sunday Concord. His readers loved him. His writing didn't sound stiff or robotic. You could feel his emotions through his choice of words. Confident, direct, sometimes confrontational, fearless even. He wrote like someone who believed in the power of his words. Soon, he became one of the most recognized media figures in Nigeria. But Dele didn't just want to be another journalist who just writes newspaper columns. He wanted to build something revolutionary, a force to be reckoned with, something that could be the voice to the voiceless, something fearless and brave that was for the people. So in 1984, Dele Giwa and his fellow journalist Ray Egbu, Dan Egbese, and Yakubu Muhammad founded Newswatch magazine. I hope I said those names right. I would be so annoyed with myself if I didn't. Believe me, I researched these names. When I start talking, everything evaporates. I just hope I was right. Dele Giwa, I'm sure of the name. Journalist Ray Egbu, Dan Egbese, and Yakubu Muhammad. Those four journalists, they founded the Newswatch magazine that could not be ignored. The magazine tackled military corruption, political scandals, government secrets, even the abuse of power. People were fascinated. So far, up until they started doing that, up until Dele Giwa started writing in Nigeria, no other journalist could dare to talk about those topics. But here he was, boldly voicing his opinions to speak everyone's mind. For the first time, many Nigerians felt like they were reading journalism that was right from the heart. And with more readers, the military government grew more uncomfortable. Every other people in the country that had any relations or connections to crime were also uncomfortable because he was not afraid to call just about anybody out. Everyone knew they could be exposed if their crimes were exposed. Investigative journalism under military rule is a bit like carrying a lit candle inside a room filled with leaking gas. The brighter the flame becomes, the more dangerous it is for everyone around it. And by 1986, Dele Giwa's candle was burning so bright, too bright. Nigeria was under the military ruler Ibrahim Babangida. At first, relations between Newswatch and the government was manageable, but eventually tension arose and slowly it escalated. Security agencies allegedly began monitoring Dele Giwa closely. He was invited for questioning on multiple occasions, and officials allegedly accused him of publishing sensitive information capable of destabilizing the country. There were rumors that he possessed explosive secrets involving powerful military figures. Whether those rumors were true or exaggerated, nobody knows, and up until today, we don't know. But what we do know is that Dele Giwa had become a man under pressure. In October 19, 1986, Dele Giwa was at his home in Ikeja, Lagos. He was with a fellow journalist, Kayode Soyinka, when he had a knock at the door. He was in his Lagos home in Ikeja. He goes to the door. There was a delivery guy who handed him a package. The package allegedly was reported to look official, government-like, and it was credible enough for him not to have any suspicions. According to the reports, allegedly it had the government insignia on it and looked very official, so he wasn't alarmed at all and he took it in. He opened it. The minute he opened the parcel, it exploded. He had been delivered a parcel bomb, and a parcel bomb, as we all know, is a bomb that's wrapped and disguised to be a delivery or a package or even a wrapped gift. So the minute he opened it, the bomb detonated in the house. It blew up the entire place. Dele Giwa was badly injured by the explosion, and hours later, he was confirmed to be dead. His friend, the other journalist in the house with him, Kayode Soyinka, he was also badly injured, but he survived the bomb attack. Most Nigerians were not even exposed or familiar with parcel bombs, so when the public heard that he was killed via a parcel bomb, it was this news that no one ever really understood or knew. It was very sophisticated. People were fast to point their fingers at the military government because remember earlier I said he was interviewed by the government officials on multiple occasions. Yes, he had been questioned by state security officials, and he was also accused of spreading top secret information through his publications. So when he was assassinated, most Nigerians believed that he was getting on the military government's nerves, and they decided to eliminate the issue. Human rights lawyer Gani Fawemi spent years trying to pursue justice for Dele Giwa, and several names repeatedly surfaced in public discussions and allegations. But up until today, no one has ever been convicted for Dele Giwa's murder. The only thing we have are theories, accusations, and silence. As of the time that Dele Giwa was murdered, he was survived by 5 children, and he had married multiple times during his life. One of his former wives was Florence Giwa. The marriage was very brief, and he was later married to Olufunmilayo Olaniwa. Today, Dele Giwa is remembered as more than just a journalist. He has become a symbol of freedom, of fearless reporting, of the risk journalists face daily if they choose to confront power. Many younger Nigerian journalists still see him as a martyr for free speech, and even decades after his death, his assassination still remains one of Nigeria's most famous and unresolved murders. You know how much I don't like unsolved cases because there's a dangerous belief many societies fall into that if a truth is uncomfortable enough, eventually people will stop asking questions. Do you feel that way about this case? Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. If there's any part of this information that was inaccurate, please do let me know in the description in the comment below. I'd like to know your thoughts, and I'd like to know what case you'd like for me to talk about next. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast, share it with someone interested in Nigerian history and true crime. Please stay safe, take care of yourself, live and let live, be your brother's keeper. I will see you in the next one. Bye.